Okay, think about this for a second. What if we could just erase a deadly disease from a family's history forever? Not just treat it, but literally delete it from their genetic code. Well, that's not science fiction anymore. We actually have that power. Today, we're diving deep into human genome editing, a technology so powerful it forces us to ask one of the biggest questions we've ever faced. Just because we can rewrite the very code of life, should we? It's one of the most profound debates of our time, and to really get it, we have to start with the moment it all became terrifyingly real.
For years, this was all just talk, a debate for ethicists and scientists in labs. It was all theoretical. But that changed completely in 2018, when one announcement sent shockwaves around the planet and dragged this whole conversation out of the what if and into the what now.
So, in November 2018, a Chinese biotechnologist named He Jiankui got up and announced he'd created the world's first gene-edited babies, twin girls. He said he'd altered their DNA when they were embryos to try and make them resistant to HIV. The thing is, this was all done in secret, with no real ethical oversight, and the reaction from the global scientific community was, well, it was immediate and it was furious.
He Jiankui's announcement kicked off an absolute firestorm. He was condemned, he was investigated, and he was eventually sentenced to 3 years in a Chinese prison for illegal medical practice. And you'd think, okay, story over. But it's not. After serving his time, He Jiankui is back, and he's saying he's ready to get back to his research. This isn't a movie plot. It already happened, and the scientist who crossed that line, he's back in the picture.
To really understand the controversy here, we need to get a handle on the technology that made it all possible. It's a tool with a pretty catchy name that has totally transformed biology in just a handful of years.
At its core, genome editing is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a way to make very specific, targeted changes to the DNA inside a living cell. So picture the human genome as this gigantic instruction book with 3 billion letters. Genome editing is like a tool that lets us find a single typo in that massive book and fix it.
And the most famous of these tools is called CRISPR-Cas9. The way it works is actually pretty brilliant. It's almost like a find and replace function for your DNA. So first, you program a little guide molecule to hunt for the exact DNA sequence you want to change. Think of it like hitting Control-F in a document. That guide then takes an enzyme called Cas9, which is basically a pair of molecular scissors, right to that spot. Cas9 makes a cut, and then the cell's own repair crew rushes in to fix the break. And that's your moment. That's when you can trick it into adding, deleting, or swapping out the genetic letters. It's a breathtakingly precise way to edit life itself.
And this incredible power is exactly why this whole debate is so intense. This technology could hold the key to curing some of our most awful diseases, but it also opens a Pandora's box of ethical nightmares.
On one hand, the promise is just staggering. I mean, we could potentially cure diseases caused by a single faulty gene, things like Huntington's or sickle cell anemia, and just wipe them out for good. And scientists are already looking ahead to something called polygenic editing, which means targeting multiple genes at once. That could someday tackle complex stuff like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and heart disease. But then, on the other hand, the peril is just as big. People are terrified of a return to eugenics, the idea of creating designer babies in a genetic upper class. There's the technical risk of off-target effects, basically making a mistake in editing the wrong part of the genome with who knows what consequences. And of course, there's the very real danger that this technology only becomes available to the rich, making our society even more unequal.
So, how in the world do we navigate this? Well, ethicists, like the folks at the Nuffield Council on Bioethics, suggest we need 2 guiding stars. First, the welfare of the future person. Is what we're doing actually going to help the health and well-being of the person being born? And second, the impact on society as a whole. Is this technology going to make our society more just, or is it going to create more division and discrimination? Those 2 questions right there are at the heart of this entire debate.
But let's be real, this isn't just about ethics. Like with any game-changing science, the road from the lab to your local clinic is paved with money, and that's led to a huge fight over who actually owns the code to life itself.
CRISPR wasn't invented in some big corporate lab. It came out of research at universities, mostly funded by the public. The patents they filed are what you'd call prospect patents. The idea isn't just to say, congrats for the discovery, it's to give one company or group broad control so they can coordinate and fund the incredibly long and expensive journey of turning a breakthrough into a real product.
And that's pretty much exactly what went down. The big university players handed over exclusive licenses for their patents to a handful of biotech startups. The Broad Institute's patents, they went to a company called Editas Medicine. UC Berkeley's patents went to Intellia and Caribou. The result? You've got just a few companies holding the keys to one of the most important technologies of our lifetime, all in a high-stakes race to get to the market first.
And this brings us to a huge question: access. If these companies strike gold, who's actually going to be able to afford these cures? This isn't just a what if. There's an approved gene therapy right now called Luxturna. It treats a rare kind of blindness, and it costs $425,000 per eye. That number really throws the problem into sharp relief, doesn't it? The tension between making these amazing therapies and making sure they're not just for the super rich.
So with the science moving at lightning speed and so much money on the line, the world is absolutely scrambling to figure out what the rules should be. And this isn't just one country's problem. It's a challenge for the entire globe. Groups like the Nuffield Council on Bioethics in the UK are essentially hitting the pause button. They're not giving a simple yes or no. Instead, they're calling for a big public conversation. They argue that before any country even thinks about changing its laws to allow this stuff, there needs to be a massive societal debate where everyone, not just the scientists, gets a say. So how do you even begin to regulate a technology that could change our species? It's a puzzle every country is working on, and some are starting to build the framework. Just in May 2024, South Africa took a real step, updating its national health research guidelines. They didn't ban heritable editing, but they laid out this super strict path. Any research would need a powerful medical reason, it would have to focus on preventing serious diseases, be completely transparent, and have intense ethical supervision, including long-term monitoring of any children born. It's a fascinating look at how one nation is trying to build guardrails while the global debate is still raging.
So where does all of this leave us? We are standing at a crossroads, honestly, looking at a technology that could reshape our future in ways we can barely even start to imagine.
You know, the history of science has taught us this lesson over and over, from splitting the atom to the rise of AI. Our technical power just rockets ahead, while our collective wisdom about how to use it responsibly has to play catch-up. And CRISPR is maybe the most personal example yet, because this technology isn't aimed at the world out there. It's aimed at us, at our own biology.
The reality is this: we are the first generation of human beings with the power to actually direct our own evolution. We can make changes to our DNA that will be passed down through our children and their children forever. The question isn't if we can do it anymore. The question is how we're going to manage this incredible, awesome responsibility. Who gets to decide? Scientists? Governments? The companies that own the patents? Or does every single one of us get a say in where humanity draws the line? That is the question we all need to start asking ourselves.